Today is Thursday, January 4th. We'll tell you some of the most prominent names on the so-called Epstein List just released to the public. Also why there's confusion and speculation about a pair of bombings in Iran, and why some state capitol buildings around the U.S. had to be evacuated. Plus, hearing aids could help people live longer, the pros and cons of a new Instagram feature called Link History, and Stanley Cup frenzy, why people waited for hours to get their hands on a new type of tumbler. Those stories and more news next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The so-called Epstein List that's been highly anticipated for a while now has been publicly released. And as expected, it includes names of prominent people connected to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who died in jail, as well as his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Yesterday's release included hundreds of pages of documents from a past lawsuit that's since been settled. The names have been publicly redacted until now. So who exactly is listed? Well, former President Clinton is mentioned more than 50 times, and former President Trump is mentioned a few times too. To be clear, the documents do not include any evidence of either Clinton or Trump doing anything illegal. It's mostly accusers repeating what Epstein had said about his close ties with the former presidents. In the docs, witnesses also say they met with celebrities at Epstein's home, including late pop star Michael Jackson and magician David Copperfield, though they weren't accused of anything illegal either. Prince Andrew is repeatedly mentioned as well, with one of the accusers saying he had groped her. Others have accused him of even more. But he's also denied any wrongdoing and has since settled at least one lawsuit related to his links to Epstein. Others mentioned in the newly released docs include a former Victoria's Secret CEO, a French modeling agent, lawyers, chefs, and many more. Of course, most of the information in the first batch of documents has already been released through media reports and court proceedings. But this is just the first set of documents that's set to be unsealed, with more expected in the coming weeks. A recent bombing in Iran has the Middle East even more on edge. 2 roadside bombs exploded yesterday at an event honoring an Iranian general who was killed by an American airstrike back in 2020. Iranian officials say about 100 people were killed in these bombings and more than 200 others were hurt. But it's still not clear who could be behind the attack, since no one has claimed responsibility. Iranian government officials blame the two countries long considered to be enemies, Israel and the U.S., accusing Israel especially of staging new attacks just to distract from international outrage over the war in Gaza. And Iran's supreme leader has promised a strong response. Though international intelligence experts and analysts say the attacks seem to be the work of a terrorist group like ISIS, not another country. Either way, several countries and the UN are now condemning the attacks, and Iran declared today a day of mourning. All around the U.S., more than a dozen state capitals received bomb threats. It led to lockdowns and evacuations at state house buildings, and court proceedings were interrupted. No real bombs were found. Still, the FBI says even hoax threats put people at risk, and it's promised to keep working with local, state, and federal law enforcement to investigate. At this point, it's not clear why the capitals were targeted or how the threats might be connected. Most buildings have since reopened for regular business today. This comes as officials on both sides of the aisle plan to take legislative action because of a big increase in swatting. Remember, that's when people make phony calls for help, leading heavily armed law enforcement officers to show up at unsuspecting people's homes. Shut the border down or shut the government down. That was the message from House Republicans who visited the U.S.-Mexico border this week. They're trying to raise pressure on President Biden and Democrats to agree to stricter immigration policies. For example, the Trump-era policies of keeping migrants in Mexico until their day in immigration court and border wall construction. They also want more migrants to be detained or deported for trying to enter the country illegally. They say it's a matter of national security that needs to be a priority. And they have some leverage since the next deadlines for lawmakers to pass spending bills are just a couple of weeks away. Though a White House spokesman responded to yesterday's border trip by saying Republicans are actually to blame. He mentioned how House Speaker Mike Johnson turned down Biden's request for more money to hire Border Patrol agents and asylum officers who could help the situation. Bottom line, everyone seems to agree something needs to be done, just not what. Biden administration officials have been holding bipartisan talks almost every day at this point, hoping to find a compromise on immigration policies, even virtually while lawmakers were home for the holidays. So far, officials have not revealed any specific details from those talks, But both Republicans and Democrats have said they're moving in the right direction. All right, we have much more news for you still ahead, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Taking care of your health is not always easy, but it should at least be simple. That's why for almost a year now, I have been drinking AG1 every day. It's just 1 scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel nourished. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I like to drink AG1 first thing in the morning, which is recommended for optimal nutrient absorption. If I'm running short on time and can't mix up my AG1 before heading out, I can even grab a travel pack. Each is an individual serving of AG1 that's easy to mix on the go, helping to ensure I get my daily nutrients no matter what. If there's one product I had to recommend to elevate your health right away, it's AG1. And that's why I've partnered with them for a while now. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to the news. It turns out using hearing aids may help you live longer. A new peer-reviewed study out of USC found adults with hearing loss who regularly wear hearing aids have a significantly lower risk of dying earlier than those who never wear them. Researchers studied about 10,000 people, and they learned people who needed hearing aids and actually wore them had a 24% lower mortality risk than those who needed them and did not wear them. And the worse someone's hearing loss was, the greater the risk of an earlier death. The study's co-author says it could be because hearing aids help stimulate the brain with more sound, helping the brain stay healthy. But also, research has shown hearing loss can cause people to become more socially isolated and less physically active, which is also linked to a higher risk of serious medical conditions and death. But of course, even though hearing aids have proven to be beneficial, researchers do know that they're not guaranteed to prevent all health risks associated with hearing loss. And the study did not look into exactly how many more years they might buy you. Still, study authors say they hope their work encourages more healthcare providers to recommend hearing aids to people who need them and leads to better insurance coverage, too. It looks like mass tech layoffs are back for 2024, starting with Xerox. The IT corporation behind office equipment like scanners and printers is laying off 15% of its workforce. In other words, about 3,000 people are losing their jobs. Other tech and biotech companies like Intel, Nextdoor, and Thermo Fisher Scientific also revealed plans to shrink their staffs this week, resulting in hundreds more layoffs. And of course, that's on top of nearly 500,000 job cuts in tech announced in 2022 and 2023. By the way, across all industries, the latest federal data shows the job market is cooling a bit, but there are still far more job vacancies than at any point before the pandemic. Facebook and Instagram have rolled out a new setting that's getting some mixed reactions. It's called Link History, and it lets you keep track of all the links you visit through Facebook and Instagram's apps. Meta says the new feature helps users, so you can easily get back to the recent links you visited. That may be otherwise hard to find. But it does help Meta, too. As Gizmodo points out, it gives the social media giant a convenient way to improve its targeted advertising. It's not enabled by default, and people can always opt out in their settings. Still, some privacy advocates have raised concerns that Meta is getting sneakier about gathering user data for ads. But others say this is actually an improvement over past methods since Meta is asking users for permission. Either way, people who live in the European Union do have another option entirely. They're now able to opt out of all ads in exchange for a monthly fee. For now, there's no word on whether that option will eventually come to the US. Starbucks is making it a little easier to go green, now allowing reusable cups on every order, even drive-thru and mobile ones. Customers just have to select the personal cup option in the app or let the store know when you place an order and hand your cup over when you pick up your drink. Everyone will get 10 cents off for this, and loyalty program members will earn 25 bonus stars, too. This is an expansion of the current system that's been letting people bring in their own cups for in-store orders for decades now. The coffee giant says it's a step toward the goal of cutting waste in half by the end of the decade. Oh, and speaking of reusable cups, the frenzy over Stanley tumblers has really hit a new level. The cult favorite travel mugs have been popular for a couple of years now, but this week they brought chaos to Target stores all around the country. Stanley did a collaboration with Starbucks to come up with a limited edition winter pink version sold exclusively at Target stores. They went on sale yesterday, and before stores even opened, big crowds were lined up outside of several locations around the country. Some people even camped out overnight to make sure they could get their hands on a new Stanley Cup for about $50. And in a few instances, fights even broke out over them. Now most stores have sold out and there's no plan to restock them. So some of the Stanley Cups that sold yesterday are being listed on resale sites like eBay and Poshmark for as much as $300. A small dog has now entered the big leagues. The American Kennel Club announced its 201st recognized breed this week, the Lancashire Healer. It looks sort of like a cross between a Corgi, mini Doberman, and a Terrier, with pointy ears and typically a black and tan coat. Lancashire Healers only weigh about 10 to 15 pounds, so they might seem like the perfect lap dogs. But they actually aren't the kind of breed to just lounge around all day. They're energetic, smart, fast, agile, and sometimes mischievous. They're also loyal and enjoy having a job to do, as they were first bred to keep cattle in line. And now they're eligible to start competing in AKC dog shows like Westminster. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, a break for our sponsor. Here's a New Year's resolution that's actually easy to keep. Stop wearing uncomfortable clothes and undergarments. You know that feeling when you get home from a long day and immediately just want to get in your PJs? With Honeylove, you won't have to experience that again because their items are so comfortable, you'll forget that you're even wearing them. For the ladies listening, Honeylove gives you the comfort and support you need, but with the feeling, quality, and look you want, whether you're wearing their shapewear and bras or their leggings and loungewear. And speaking of leggings, Honeylove's Legging 2.0 is my favorite legging that I own. I wear them literally every week. They hold you in without that too tight feeling. They're cooling, comfortable, and really cute. Treat yourself to the best bras, shapewear, and leggings on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please be sure to support our show and tell them we sent you. Start the new year with confidence thanks to Honeylove. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. Even in the face of war, climate change, and disease, the human population has flourished. The U.S. Census Bureau released figures this week showing the world's population grew by 75 million people over the past year. It now stands at 8.1 billion people. Then it will keep growing even more. The Census Bureau expects at the start of 2024, the world will see more than 4 births and 2 deaths every second. And the population is expected to peak in the 2080s at nearly 10.4 billion. Here in the U.S., last year brought the largest population gain since 2018. But this year, in 2024, the country's death rate is expected to slightly outpace the birth rate. That said, immigration will make it so the U.S. population keeps growing anyway. Right now, the U.S. is the 3rd most populous country in the world, following China and India. All right, thank you for listening today. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.